Welcome back to the Lawyer Diaries. Today is a practical episode where we're discussing everything that you will need when you are preparing to make a lateral move. So, what do we mean? Like everything you will need, like your actual submission materials.
Right. And we're going to break this up into three main buckets that most associates fall into. The first one is any type of transactional work, so corporate real estate associates. Litigation is the second bucket. And then the third bucket is intellectual property. We know that IP lawyers can be litigators, but IP lawyers tend to need a slightly different submission material list. So we're putting that in its own bucket.
Yeah. And I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Everyone is going to need an updated resume and a law school transcript. So, resume, we have a whole episode on our top 5 tips for resumes, but has to be polished, up to date, typo free, and contain all of your relevant legal experience. Ideally, it should be 70% legal, 30% miscellaneous. And then your law school transcript can be an unofficial transcript that you download usually from your school's website. It shouldn't be anything that's difficult to obtain. Um, and it might look wonky too, like because you're downloading it. That's totally fine. That's perfectly acceptable. And then just like a minor tip, I guess we'll talk more about transcripts when we get to IP people. But yeah, so everyone needs a resume and your law school transcript.
hmm And then transactional associates, one thing you may need, and not every firm asks for one, but several of them do, you're going to need a deal sheet. And we have a blog post on how to create a deal sheet. They can be pretty daunting. They basically list every transaction that you've been staffed on, and you're going to group it by transaction type. So if you're a corporate generalist, you might have like M&A transactions, you might have IPOs. You want to separate those, label the type of transaction, and then list all of your M&A transactions underneath M&A. And like in an ideal world, you would start this at the very beginning of your career and kind of just build onto it, because it can be pretty daunting to put together a deal sheet when you're a fourth year associate. And now you have to look back and look at every single deal you've ever billed for the past 4 years that you want to include. They can be lengthy, and it's okay for them to be lengthy. Like you really want it to encompass your full range of experience. And it's such a great way to sell yourself and show I'm such a great associate. Look at all of the matters that I've been staffed on.
Totally. That's really a pro tip is like ideally you have this running as you close deals. But if you don't, and let's say you're one of those people who is thinking a move is in your future, but not for 3, 4, 6 months, go ahead and get started on that whenever you have a slow day or a moment or sometime on the weekend. I know that it's never going to be something that you're wanting to prioritize. But if you just work at it little by little, chip away at it little by little, it's going to feel a lot less overwhelming when you're ready to make a move and they ask you for a deal sheet and you're like, I can submit this, it's ready to go. And we have a blog post on all the details, things like, making sure it has the same header as your resume and your other materials and same font and all of that. So basically everything Erica said is memorialized in a blog post.
And in addition to a deal sheet, corporate associates, and this actually, just like the resume and transcript, this is for every single associate, no matter what practice group you're in. You're going to need cover letters for every single role that you apply to. If you're working with a recruiter, your recruiter is in charge of writing cover letters for you, so you don't have to worry about that. But if you're not, you're going to need a cover letter that is specific to the firm and the role that you're applying to. So you're going to have one for every single role.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for reminding me. I forgot about cover letters because when you're working with recruiters like ourselves, we handle that for you. So Basically, based on conversations we have and looking at your background, we'll craft a letter for each role based on the specifications and your experience, etc. But if you're not using a recruiter, of course, you have to prepare those yourself, um, which I'm sure you are familiar with. But that is a big perk of using a recruiter, not having to do the cover letter. If you're a lit associate, you're going to need a writing sample. We recommend typically that the writing sample be between 5 and 15 pages. Um, you know, there's a lot of wiggle room here. So if you're a junior associate, you probably haven't had that many opportunities for substantive writing. So in that case, it's okay to use something that maybe you did for a pro bono matter or a research memo or something. That's totally fine and understandable. People understand that you may not have, had the opportunity to work on a motion or a brief. But motions or briefs are ideal for litigation roles. Especially one that's publicly filed, because then you don't have to scrub anything, redact anything, which is another important thing to know about a writing sample. Um, and yeah, so ideally it's for a like billable work and pro bono, be judicious about when you're submitting a writing sample that was done as part of a pro bono case.
Right. And the reason for that, it's pretty straightforward. When the firm you're applying to sees the writing sample and they see it's pro bono, they're going to wonder, well, if you're a litigator, haven't you done a writing sample or written a brief or written some sort of memo for a paying client matter? So that's kind of the reasoning behind that. But we do see a lot of associates where they played a really big role in a pro bono matter and they have an appellate brief and now they're applying to appellate roles and that just kind of happens to be the perfect writing sample for them. So, depending on the role you're applying to, you may also want to adjust the writing sample. And another thing that I think is really important is the main thing that firms are looking at is that you're applying facts to law and you're doing some sort of legal analysis. So you don't want to use something that I mean sometimes we see like case summaries and like some sort of deposition summary type
Or an
writing.
article. Yeah.
Exactly. While they are wonderful pieces of writing, that's not really what firms are looking for. They're looking for that analysis and applying law to facts and arguing something for one way or another.
Right. We've also seen in the rare instance a corporate associate be asked for a writing sample. And here's like the overarching golden rule of writing samples is you want to submit something that reflects the work that you do, right? So if you do any kind of writing as a corporate associate, whatever that may be, that's the best thing to submit. If you're a litigator and are applying for a commercial litigation role, then you want something that reflects the commercial litigation work that you've done. That's really like the golden rule. So anything that reflects like what your practice actually looks like and your experience.
You're also going to want a cover letter for that writing sample and that cover letter or that a cover page. And that cover page should have the same header as your resume and your other materials. And there should be a pretty short blurb explaining a little bit of a summary of what the writing sample is and then your role in it. Did you draft it? Was it heavily edited by a partner, etc.? So you want to include all of that. And they are expecting a cover page. So make sure you have one.
And also with respect to the editing, you know, people know that no work is written by a single person untouched by anyone else. So it's okay if it's been looked at, reviewed, edited, commented on by a partner or senior associate, as long as you can say you were the primary drafter of whatever, excerpt that you're submitting.
Exactly. And it's also helpful if you can say that you did the underlying legal research because you probably did if your
Totally.
client didn't see it. So make sure you include something that says that if it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. So our final bucket is IP. If you're an IP litigator or you do patent counseling, firms are going to be really interested in your undergraduate education as well. So in addition to your law school transcript, you're also going to want a copy of your undergraduate transcript.
Exactly. And then also, like, if you have a master's in something STEM related that's on your resume, you're going to want a transcript from that as well. Basically, intellectual property, you need a transcript from every piece of education,
Yeah.
college board. So, yeah.
Yeah. So it can be helpful just in general, like labeling, law school transcript, undergrad transcript, master's transcript, um, if you're in that category.
Exactly.
And yeah, do you have any other tips for IP?
I would say for IP, if you are an IP litigator, the same rules apply for our other litigators. You'll also need a writing sample. And we've seen requests for writing sample even for patent counseling before. That's not common. It does happen. And that's very similar to if a corporate associate gets asked for a writing sample, you just want to produce something that is in line with the type of work you do. And if you can't really think of anything, we have seen people use articles that they've written. And because it's not a litigation role, it's more appropriate to use legal literature that you've written and that you're proud of.
Right, that demonstrates your expertise also in a particular, area.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all. Do you have anything to add?
I think that's all. On occasion, this isn't very frequent with applying laterally to law firms, but on occasion, we will see people asked for a list of references with the initial submission materials. Again, not common, so don't think too hard about it, but we have seen it, so it can happen.
Yeah. And your references, again, just to keep everything super uniform, put it on a document with the same header as your other materials and be sure to list name, position, organization, email, and telephone number.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And one final tip, which, I think seems a little obvious, but I think it's worth reminding everyone. Your submission materials in general are you should think of them as the first work product you're handing over to a potential employer. So they really should be A plus. You should double, triple check them and make sure that everything looks good and that you are proud of it and that there are no typos. And when it comes to writing samples, deal sheets, etc., firms can scrutinize them. And if there is an obvious mistake or typo, that can really hurt your candidacy. So make sure that all of your materials the reflect you as well as possible.
Absolutely. That's great advice. Well, that's all we have for today. Again, as always, if you have any questions or anything you want us to discuss, feel free to email us or drop it in the comments. But till next time.
Bye.